Today, I've got 10 plus waiver wire pickups that you should be looking at making for week 12 of the fantasy football season. If you need quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, if you need to stream the quarterback position or stream a defense, I got you on today's video, and hopefully we will do all of that in under 10 minutes. Let's get started. My first priority, I imagine he'll be rostered in a lot of formats, but in ESPN and Yahoo, he's still widely available. That is Zach Charbonnet, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll, came out after the game and said that Kenneth Walker suffered a legit oblique strain. So at minimum, he's going to miss next week, if not multiple weeks. We'll have to wait and see how serious that injury is. But Charbonnet, in the absence of Ken Walker, played a career-high snap percentage. He played 84% of the snaps, career-high in carries with 15, and a career-high in targets. Just overall, Zach Charbonnet dominated this backfield, and multiple times on this channel, we have called Zach Charbonnet one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football. If Ken Walker misses an extended amount of time, for however long that is, you have a guy that you can start in a 12-man format, regardless of what the matchup looks like. The second name here, we will talk about a wide receiver. Again, a lot of injuries this week there's a cause and effect here, right? Mark Andrews goes down for the Ravens. Let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr., rostered in 44% of ESPN leagues, less in sleeper leagues, oddly enough, but Mark Andrews is out for the year like we just discussed. Meanwhile, Odell Beckham Jr. was already kind of starting to heat up in this Ravens offense. In the last 3 weeks, averaging 5.3 targets per game, 2 touchdowns in those last 3 weeks, and almost 14 PPR points per game. So now, with no Mark Andrews for the rest of the year, they're going to get creative with these wide receivers. Zay Flowers would be my preference, but he's probably already rostered in a high percentage of leagues. Now OBJ becomes a serious flex candidate. All right, the third pickup we'll look at here, and this is a name that I don't think many people are going to be talking to you guys about, but they should. That is Michael Wilson, wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Only rostered in 8% of ESPN leagues. That's crazy to me. We got a talented, young, rookie wide receiver. The last week he did not play, but he is on track to play this upcoming week. In the first game Kyler Murray was back, he was targeted 6 times, and he barely missed a touchdown. This guy would be rostered everywhere if he scored that touchdown, and he missed it by inches. And as we know, this defense for the Arizona Cardinals cannot stop a soul to save their lives. So this rookie is going to get more than enough opportunities to really show his skill set with Kyler Murray. A lot of people are going to be telling you to pick up Greg Dortch. I think that is a trap pickup. I don't think that that's a reliable guy. I would rather set my sights on Michael Wilson. All right, the number 4 priority here, we're talking about flex appeal. How about Jaden Reed, rostered in 18% of ESPN leagues? In the last 2 weeks, he's averaging almost 19 PPR points per game. He's had a touchdown in both of those games. 5 games this year, over 11 PPR points. Now, others are probably a little bit higher on Jaden Reed than myself in their waiver wire rankings, if you will. My concern is that coming into this week, we all could recognize this was an incredible matchup versus the Chargers. They're top 5 in points allowed to the wide receiver position in fantasy. Meanwhile, there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies for this wide receiver room moving forward. Dobbs is going to be involved. Watson is going to be involved. When Luke Musgrave is healthy, he's going to be involved. So you can pick him up. I just think that there are other names that have less competition and maybe better offenses, but a mix between those. Number 5 for me is Demario Pop Douglas. This guy should be rostered in well over 60% of formats everywhere, but only 25% rostered in ESPN. In the last 3 games, he's almost getting 8 targets a game and averaging 11 PPR points. In week 10, before the bye, which was their last game in New England, Pop Douglas had a career high in fantasy points, a career high in targets, a career high in receptions, and a career high in receiving yards. He is the most explosive offensive player the Patriots have, and they are looking to feature him as the season is coming to a close for them. So definitely pick him up, because we could see a second half of the year breakout for a guy like Pop Douglas. All right, at number 6, again, cause and effect. Mark Andrews goes down, out for the year. If you need help at the tight end position, let's look at picking up Isaiah Likely. Only rostered in 1% of ESPN leagues. He's available pretty much everywhere, let's be honest. In 2022, without Mark Andrews, I'm going to look at last year when they could game plan as with Isaiah as the guy in those games. Last year in 2022, when Isaiah likely was a rookie, he had 2 games without Mark Andrews. In those 2 games, he was averaging almost 14 PPR points and seeing 9 targets a game, almost 64 yards through the air. Now, to be fair, last year, this team did not have OBJ. This team did not have Zay Flowers. Rashad Bateman was injured a lot. However, at minimum, if you're looking for someone to answer the tight end position, your tight end woes, Isaiah likely is more than worthy of a stash. We have seen him be a very good receiving threat at the tight end position, specifically when Mark Andrews is not on the field. So he's absolutely worth a pickup. At number 7, do you need a running back? Because this one is sneaky. If he's been potentially dropped in your league, a lot of people would have held on. But let's talk about Miles Sanders for the Carolina Panthers. Chuba Hubbard had his chance. He had his shot to completely take over this backfield. The issue is he did not perform well, at least not well enough to make Miles Sanders irrelevant. And now, in this last game that we just saw versus the Cowboys, Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard split touches down the middle, pretty much dead even. And meanwhile, Miles' snaps have risen every single week since coming back from that injury. And the good news for Miles Sanders here is he was extremely efficient versus a Dallas defense that very few running backs are. So he could be getting some more stock with his coaching staff, keeping in mind it's the same coaching staff that paid him a lot of money in the offseason. So, this narrative that Chuba Hubbard is just playing better is not true anymore. Miles could take that job back. All right, the number 8 priority, again, cause and effect. Tutu Atwell. If you're looking for an instant flex, that is Tutu Atwell, currently rostered in 25% of ESPN leagues. And if Cooper Kupp misses an extended amount of time, however many games he misses, Tutu Atwell is a legit flex option. This year, we have already seen 5 games with Cooper Kupp and 4 games without him. And let's look at those splits. On the right-hand side of your screen, 4 games without Cooper Kupp, Tutu is averaging 14.5 PPR points per game. We have seen this. The first half of the year when there was no Cooper Kupp, Tutu was a very, very good flex option for your 12 and 14 man format. So if he's available and let's say you're missing some guys due to injuries, maybe Higgins misses another week, you can go ahead and put Tutu in as long as Cooper Kupp is not available. All right, at number 9, more of a stash. Let's talk about Jameson Williams, rostered in just 15% of ESPN leagues. This is less about his touchdown from today. By the way, we manifested that together on Twitter. I feel like you and me, we did that if you were with me over on there. But this is less about that touchdown and more about what the team wants from him and how he's pulling through for the team. Last week, the week before rather, this is versus the Chargers, he made an incredible block downfield on that long David Montgomery touchdown that pretty much helped David Montgomery score that touchdown. This is exactly what Dan Campbell and this coaching staff has been wanting to see from Jameson Williams. Everybody on this team who's expecting to be fed has to block. You got to block to see opportunities. You got to block to see the field. And in week 11, Jameson Williams was rewarded with his highest ever in his career snap percentage. He played 65% of the snaps. Again, by far, it's not even close. By far his highest percentage of snaps. His snaps have been consistently increasing this year, and all he has to do now to get that wide receiver 2 spot full time is to beat out Josh Reynolds. He's beat out all those other wide receiver 2 options, Cleve Raymond, etc. Now we're looking at Jameson Williams potentially getting more and more involved in the offense. And at number 10 here, I'm going to bring some streamers in a second, but at number 10, if you're in a super flex league specifically, go ahead and stash a guy like Jake Browning. He's not rostered in any leagues. Again, if you're in super flex, you consider this. At some point, we're talking about a quarterback that will have access to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, okay? Sure, he's not Joe Burrow, but if you're in a super flex format, there are so many quarterback injuries this year. You have got to roster this guy and just see what he is capable of. He played half the game last week. At least he got into the end zone with that Jamar Chase touchdown. Okay, to end the stream, we're going to talk about names that you can stream at the quarterback and at the defensive position. Let's start at quarterback. You can stream Derek Carr this week. He plays the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons give up the 4th most points to opposing quarterbacks in fantasy when you adjust for schedule. And this game is in a dome. As for Matthew Stafford, another game in a dome at Arizona. The Cardinals give up the 5th most points to quarterbacks in fantasy. Jordan Love at Detroit. Again, another dome game here. Jordan Love at Detroit. Detroit gives up the 8th most points to fantasy quarterbacks. And of course, Josh Dobbs should be rostered by now, but if he's available, he's a guy you can start every week. He could probably be the answer to your quarterback woes. Now let's quickly move to defense here. I'm not sure if we're over 10 minutes. I'm trying my best to be precise and short. I know you guys' time is valuable, but we'll finish off with some defensive streamers. Patriots at the Giants. This is maybe the best stream of the week. The Giants give up the most points to defenses. Even last week, they dominated the Commanders, and the Commanders had a huge amount of sacks, probably their most this year. I think they almost ended up with 10 sacks on that game. Vikings versus the Bears. The Bears give up the 3rd most points to defenses. Titans versus the Panthers. That's another sneaky one against Bryce Young. Dolphins at the Jets. I mean, that Dolphins secondary is really starting to figure things out with Jalen Ramsey. They've got a great opportunity to put up some points against Zach Wilson and the Jets. So those are all my waiver wire pickups. Keep in mind, this video is being recorded right after Sunday Night Football. So if anything happens in Monday Night Football, maybe there is an injury that changes things. But good luck, go improve your team, and we'll see you guys very soon. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.